Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into Lesson 2, and we're talking about the absolute backbone of corporate purchasing. We're going to look at procurement procedures, policies, and the digital tools that keep modern businesses actually functioning. You know, if you've ever stopped and wondered how massive multinational corporations manage to buy billions of dollars worth of goods without everything just descending into total chaos, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's get into it.
So here's our roadmap for this lecture. We're covering 4 main stops. First, the true cost of poor procurement. Second, defining procurement policy. Third, the incredible power of procedures. And finally, the digital support tools we use to manage it all.
But right before we get into all the heavy definitions, I want you to just ask yourself this foundational question. What actually are procurement procedures in your own opinion? Just hold your answer in your head as we go through this, because we're going to build a really comprehensive framework around it.
Okay, Section 1, the cost of poor procurement. Let's do a quick reality check to see why we even need these rules in the first place.
What happens when an organization tries to operate without these crucial rules? Well, honestly, it's not pretty. Take a look at massive global projects like the Boeing Dreamliner and the Taiwan steel cases. We're not just talking about minor accounting glitches here. These are textbook examples of the chaotic, wildly expensive consequences of bypassing formalized procurement procedures. Literally, we're looking at massive supply chain disruptions and plummeting stock values, all because the basic rules of purchasing were ignored or just poorly put together.
And this quote right here hits the nail on the head. Not following these procedures can lead to significant delays and financial losses. Procurement is absolutely not just swiping a corporate credit card. Bypassing the established rules carries a massive financial risk that can threaten the survival of a project or, even take down an entire company.
Moving on to Section 2, defining procurement policy. Now that we understand the very real stakes involved, let's solve the problem by starting at the absolute top of the organizational pyramid.
It all kicks off with executive policies. These policies set the overarching strategic direction for procurement. They ensure that every single thing the purchasing department does aligns tightly with the broader business objectives, cost effectiveness, and risk management. Without these executive policies firmly in place, your entire procurement operation is just going to lack direction and efficiency. Honestly, it'd be like trying to navigate a massive cargo ship without a compass.
The really crucial point to understand here is that policy isn't just one giant intimidating document. It's actually broken down into 4 distinct operational levels. You have your executive direction right at the top, and that cascades down into functional policies, which then break down into specific operating procedures, and finally, strict rules and regulations. This layered approach is brilliant because it ensures that high-level corporate strategy actually translates into day-to-day employee behavior on the ground.
But just writing a policy isn't nearly enough. It actually has to be effective. For a policy to work in the real world, it really needs 3 main things. First, it has to be unambiguous and well understood by everyone. Second, it must be timely and current. You got to constantly update it so it doesn't just turn into a dusty relic on a server somewhere. And most importantly, it absolutely must guide problem solving and staff behavior. If it isn't helping an employee make a better decision in the moment, well, it's just not a good policy.
Let's ground this theory in reality for a second and look at a massive real-world example, the Crossrail project. Look at how their policy is systematically structured. It tackles the whole shebang, from the moment they select suppliers, right through contracting arrangements, risk allocation, fair payment procedures, all the way to ongoing performance management. It acts as this comprehensive shield that protects the project at every single phase.
Okay, let's clear up a very common point of confusion: the difference between policy and procedure. Think about it like this. Policy is the map. It shows you your overall destination and the grand strategy. Procedures, on the other hand, are your turn-by-turn navigation instructions. They are the actual how-to manual that guides your staff on the exact, precise steps they need to take to execute that overarching strategy safely.
That brings us perfectly to Section 3, the power of procedures. Let's see how those turn-by-turn navigation instructions actually build a resilient supply chain in the real world.
Formally speaking, procurement procedures are the detailed operating instructions that allow staff to execute tasks, and they enable managers to maintain strict control over operations. And these are absolutely essential. A large purchasing department might literally have hundreds, if not thousands, of these detailed procedures outlining the accepted practice for everything. We're talking everything from buying basic office supplies up to sourcing incredibly complex manufacturing components.
So consider this scenario. Can rejected requests just be sent back to engineering without any given reasons? Because of robust procedures, the answer is absolutely not. Strong procedures ensure real accountability. They mandate a documented explanation for every single action, which means a buyer can't just capriciously reject a requisition because they feel like it. The procedure forces fairness and, crucially, creates a crystal-clear paper trail.
What I find really interesting here is the sheer scope of these procedures. They do so much more than just list out steps. They explain exactly how different stakeholders are supposed to interact. They enforce industry best practices through benchmarking. And critically, they clearly outline the harsh implications for noncompliance. So you see, they're much more extensive than just a high-level policy manual. They are the true gritty operational engine of the whole business.
Now, we do have to beware of bureaucratic bloat. A really good procedure manual is simple, accurate, and super easy to follow. It actively avoids bogging people down with unnecessary details or, an excessive number of steps. The ultimate goal here is to support high performance and quick, responsive action. You definitely don't want to slow the whole system down with endless corporate red tape.
Let's trace how this sequence of procedures actually plays out in action. It's a beautifully logical flow, honestly. You start at phase 1, identifying exactly what the business needs. Then, you secure the budget and authority to purchase in phase 2. Phase 3 involves going out to the market with requests for quotations, or RFQs. Phase 4 locks in the legally binding contracts. And finally, phase 5 is where you manage that ongoing contract to ensure the supplier actually delivers what they promised. It is a highly structured, very deliberate life cycle.
Which leads us to Section 4, Digital Procurement Support Tools. Managing all those manual steps we just talked about using paper forms, yeah, that would be an absolute nightmare in today's fast-paced global market. So let's look at the final piece of the puzzle.
To really understand the tech landscape here, we need to break down the distinction between two major forces: enterprise supply chain management, or ESCM, and electronic procurement. These terms get confused all the time in the corporate world, but they actually serve distinctly different yet complementary purposes. Let's take a closer look at the differences. Okay, here is the core difference. ESCM is the big picture. It connects all the supply chain partners to maximize sales and minimize overall costs. It offers incredible visibility and predictive risk management. Think of massive software systems like SAP, SCM. E-procurement, on the other hand, is highly focused and tactical. It digitizes the specific purchasing steps we discussed earlier: demanding, authorizing, ordering, and paying. It's all about slashing administrative costs and speeding up those approvals. Realistically, you really need both to be competitive today. But here's the thing. All the fancy technology and rules in the world mean absolutely nothing if people just ignore them. Remember, there are very serious implications when these meticulously designed policies and digital procedures aren't followed. We are talking about severe internal audits, legal penalties, shattered corporate reputations, and crippling financial losses. The tools and the rules are put there to protect the company.
So as we wrap up this explainer on Lesson 2, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are your organization's daily purchasing habits truly compliant with policy? Or are you, right now, risking the next major supply chain failure? Because understanding the rules is the easy part. Vigorously enforcing them day in and day out, that is what truly separates a world-class supply chain from a very costly, headline-making disaster. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this vital lecture today.